What happens when a human face comes into contact with microwave napalm? Psh! Ah! Well, a human face begins to melt like candle wax. And this is something that plays out in prison all the time. This is something that I have seen with my own eyes when someone's face gets splashed with liquid microwaved lava. That's right. They had this one dude. I was the kitchen clerk and I used to have to serve the food. Well, I'll never forget, man. I knocked on and I knew who was in the cell when I was handing out the trays. And I specifically usually didn't hand out the trays, but I wanted to hand out the trays this day because I wanted to see the guy whose face melted. And I went and knocked on the tray. I had my tray. I knocked on the door, and these particular cells had little square windows, peepholes to a person's soul who's stuck inside of a 10 by 9 cell. Actually, this one was smaller. And I put my face to the thing like that. And when I did, I could see him. And he was standing there. You know, it was close to chow time. And you could see his back, but I couldn't see his face. So I put my face and my hand right up to that glass. And I went, and I tapped on it like that. And he turned around. And when he turned around, all I saw was the face of a melted man. That's right. Dude looked like the Toxic Crusader. He literally looked like he took an acid bath. And his eyes were sad, like Lady and the Tramp. You know what I mean? That's how bad and pathetic he looked. This whole side of his face, his whole face was melted. But one side was particularly worse than the other. The other side was all bubbled and scarred up. But his whole lip was drooped, front top lip. Nose was peeled down, melted. Eye, everything was drooped. It literally drooped down like this. Except it looked way worse than a person who had a stroke. It looked like this dude was literally burned in a fire. Except he wasn't burned in a fire. He got splashed in the face with microwave napalm. That's right, a concoction that they make in prison and use as a weapon. Let me tell you how we got to this point in the first place. There was a little white dude in the dorm in a little satellite camp, which is a paid for private run prison that the parishes in Louisiana get paid to house state inmates. And they're not equipped to house state inmates. But when money is being made, nobody really cares about what should and shouldn't happen to the state inmates. So they run these private run facilities called satellite camps. And they're full of inmates. And some of these satellite camps is a hit and miss. You can get in some where it's not so bad. But there are also others that are extremely bad. There was a place called Tensor, Louisiana. It was a satellite camp, paid for profit, parish jail, wasn't a prison. And it was off the hook. There was another one called Rayville. And when I tell you that story, you're going to really be scared because you ain't never heard a story on all the internet like Rayville prison. Not even the main big prisons can meet the reputation of this hidden reputation. But back to the guy whose face was getting melted off. There was a little white dude who was on the compound. Country dude, short, pudgy, didn't look like he was about any trouble. I remember seeing him. I can picture his face to this day. Well, I knew other dudes who was in the dorm with him because I wasn't in the dorm with him. And they said every time that this dude would get in the shower, this particular dude would go to the shower and try to get in the shower with him. And once the dude figured out what was going on, because when he first saw and looked down and saw something standing up in the shower, he knew something was off. And he got out the shower. And the dude said, "Why are you leaving? Why are you leaving?" And the dude would get out the shower time and time again. So the way he was dealing with the situation, he was avoiding it. He was trying to get away from it. Sounds like a reasonable thing to do, right? When somebody comes in the shower, you know what I mean? And it's just you and him, and you look down and he's talking to you. There's something going on. And this is how jail is. This is the struggle. And he just kept getting out. He's like, "I'm not like that. I'm not like that." But every time he got in the shower, and wouldn't nobody go in the shower because everybody in the dorm knew at this point that the dude was trying to get that dude. And they were trying to turn him out. He was trying to turn him out. It was one guy trying to turn one guy out. But the guy didn't want to be turned out. He just wanted to do his time and go home. A lot of people, they have that mentality. I just want to go home. Trying to do my time and go home. But it ain't so easy to do your time and go home when you can't do your time in peace. Because every time you go in the shower, you got to deal with this. And I know it sounds crazy, and I always got to make my disclaimers. This is prison we're talking about. I'm not glamorizing this. I'm just telling you the reality. Anyway, words on the compound. This little white dude don't want to fight back. He's being an avoider. He's avoiding the guy who's trying to turn him out. He's avoiding the booty bandit who gets in the shower with him. Everybody in the dorm, his people who are from the same town he's from. I'm from New Orleans. So New Orleans people, by and large, stick with the city people from down south. You know, New Orleans, Jefferson Parish, Orleans Parish, you know, St. Bernard Parish. That area tends to stick together. Then you got other parishes toward Shreveport. And that's where these dudes were from. We call it the country. Well, this dude finally got tired of it one day, and he didn't even tell nobody. But he went to the microwave. He took peanut butter. There are two main ingredients to make microwave napalm in prison. Two main ingredients. They're not the only ingredients, but you need one of these two ingredients or a concoction of these two ingredients. Peanut butter and Magic Shave. You know what peanut butter is. If you never been to prison and you white, you probably have no idea what Magic Shave is. Magic Shave is something that black folks tend to use to shave with. It's almost like a powdery gel that you can put on your face and you can scrape it off, or you put on your neck or your head and you scrape it off and it takes the hair off. It's a dilapidatory cream. I used to use it. I used to shave my hair with it. I used to use it to shave, you know. So some white people use Magic Shave. Some people don't. But a lot of black folks in prison use Magic Shave. Well, you could take that powdery substance and mix it in some water with some peanut butter and heat it in the microwave and mix it with some other items until it's real liquidy, until it's bubbling and boiling. And it's, 400, 500, 600 degrees. And when you throw it on somebody's face, you know what happens. Well, that's what happened. The dude was sitting on his bunk. And he didn't know that the little white dude was making microwave napalm. And so he made this microwave napalm, the little white dude. He's walking around the dorm looking regular as normal, going back and forth from the microwave. And he's using peanut butter and he's using Magic Shave. And nobody's questioning it, because in prison and in jail, especially these little satellite camps where there's not a lot of going on, you smell peanut butter and you smell Magic Shave. Magic Shave, if you want to be honest, it smells like poo. So when somebody's hooking up the Magic Shave, they're like, all right, they're about to shave. Yeah, whatever. Ain't nobody really giving two thoughts of it. But nobody paid attention to the little white dude who kept going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth to the microwave with Magic Shave and peanut butter. This dude was so determined. It wasn't until retrospect, when people were remembering what happened in the dorm, and he did it during a regular date when most people were back and forth on the outside on the yard call, and some people in the dorm just chilling. There was only one officer in the dorm because most people were in and out on the yard. But he was watching that booty bandit who kept coming in the shower, and he probably had images of this, and he was tired of it. And he said, I'm going to deal with this. And he stirred it up with that tumbler. That's right, plastic tumbler. Plastic tumblers in prison, they built like a hyena's stomach. They could handle anything. So you could put anything in that tumbler and stir it with that spoon. Stir, stir, stir. Oh, you don't want to stir with that. Stir, 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 stir. Right? And till it boils. And I've never made microwave napalm. I never used this as a weapon. But they say once it was ready, the dude was just laying back on his bed. He casually walked up to the dude and splashed boiling peanut butter Magic Shave concoction on the dude's face. They said that when that stuff hit his face, all you heard was, ah! They said it was a blood-curdling scream, and it sounded like the weakest, most terrifying man was being tortured. And he was being tortured. His face was cooking in that bunk. And I bet he wasn't thinking about that little white dude's booty then. He was thinking about the pain he was going through. And see, I was at a different stage in my life when I looked in that little hatch. I knew what he had did. And I was proud of the little dude who did what he did. They transferred the little dude, gave him a street charge. But they kept the victim there. And I looked in that little cell, that little window. It was like this, little bulletproof plexiglass. And I tapped on it. And he turned around and looked at me. And when he looked at me with those pathetic eyes and a melted face, I had to see it for myself. Because the officers were telling me they're probably going to transfer him to Hunt which is reception and diagnostics, where they can, get better medical care, be close to those hospitals in New Orleans so they could treat his face. He was never going to look the same. Like I said, he was deformed. Like I said, he looked like the Toxic Crusader took an acid bath. It looked like somebody took that Toxic Crusader mop and splashed it in his face. It was melted. He was going to go home and have to explain to his family and probably his future wife and future child, because everybody was going to ask this dude for the rest of their life, what happened to your face? What if he told a true story? A guy I was trying to victimize and turn into a punk and abuse sexually stood up for himself and poured magic shave and peanut butter on my face, and I got what I deserved. But see, back then, I was at a bad point in my life. And when I tapped on that window, I laughed at him. I pointed and laughed at him. I said, you got what you deserve. I was taunting him. I was taunting him. In retrospect, I was wrong. I never want to sit here and justify my bad behavior. Even though that guy got what he deserved because the other guy was defending himself, you still don't want to respond like I responded. But I was young and still foolish. And when I laughed and mocked this dude, I was wrong. And I don't know what happened to this dude today, but I've seen more than one victim of magic shave, peanut butter, microwave, napalm. I've been in a dorm where it actually happened to a guy. He didn't get it. The guy who got hit in this satellite camp by the little white dude, he was laying down on his bed. So when the dude literally poured it on his face, it caught the entire tumbler of stuff just poured all over the dude's face. He didn't miss his face. But I've seen where dudes splash it at somebody and some of it will get on them. And then, they get a couple of boils. It'll be a little scar or something, but they usually heal from it. But this dude caught this dude good. And you never know what's going through somebody's mind. And I don't know how much time he wound up getting for that. I'm sure they gave him another 5 or 10 years for it, But he kept his manhood and his dignity when he should have just fought him from the beginning. And I'm going to tell y'all that story soon where I had to throw him up. Fight. Sometimes you got to do it in the shower, especially in the shower. But he chose to go another route. And all you can do is respect that. And I'll never forget when the officer came back and shut that tray hatch and that dude and me and that dude's eyes were locked. I don't know what he was thinking, but I know what I was thinking. I was smiling. To him, I was probably some jackal or some hyena sent to antagonize him. But I bet he wasn't thinking of how much he antagonized that dude in that shower. And I don't know what that little dude's doing today. There's been many victims inside the Louisiana Department of Corrections who didn't do anything. And they still lay back at home free, remembering that they didn't respond. They didn't defend themselves. They just let it happen. And I know that some people let it happen. They let it happen in the shower and they never say nothing. Welcome to the Pen and The Shank, the most unusual and unique crime in prison channel experience on YouTube, where we just getting this thing started. And I got some amazing, phenomenal, unusual, and unique content coming your way. So you should hit that thumbs up, that hype button, and you should definitely subscribe and go check out my other videos. If you think this video was good, I got some that's just way better than this that will blow your mind. The algorithm is beginning to understand me, but I ain't so easy to understand because it is unusual and unique. You don't know if I'm going to go down that winding road or that straight road. But that's what I give. Authentic content. I don't chase no trends. It could be a laugh and a smile. It could be go crazy, or it could be pure horror. And if your face is getting melted off, I bet you would think it was pure horror. Or if you was in the shower, scared, and you didn't know what you was going to do, and you looked down and saw something like that, that's horror. Because you got kids at home, and you look down and you see that, and you don't know what to do because you're scared. I get it. Sometimes you got to dig deep and bring that horror to them. And I got many more stories coming. We only scratching the surface. Remember, I told y'all, I used to write down everything because I'm a writer. I had volumes of things that happened in prison, my thoughts, things I saw, smelled, heard, taste in the air of dead crickets, the taste in the air of booties from punks in the dawn because they all under the bed on a Saturday. It's disgusting. Magic shave. Sweat from the field mixed with potatoes, crickets. Man, that's what we're going to do here. But for now, we're going to end this video. But you don't want to be on the other side of that